Welcome back to the Crone Escobar Group. I'm Jamal Crone. I want to take a little bit of time today to really explore with you all 3 ways to maintain a healthy mindset during this time of quarantine. Now, our habits and our routines have been severely disrupted, and for most of us who are doing a lot of our work at home, who are no longer able to get to the gym, who are no longer able to kind of really freely float around the way that we used to be, things can seem challenging. And I first want to explore the difference between a habit and a routine, because this will make all the difference in the 3 ways that I present to you in a few minutes. So a habit is really that thing that is autopilot for us. We get up, we have our coffee, we read the newspaper, we check our emails, we do these things without really thinking about them. And our day goes by and it's kind of like, yeah, there's someone else stirring the ship because we just automatically know. A routine is something that we do intentionally, that we each day and each hour, if necessary, put an actual thought to. And if you're like me, I used to get up, read, and then have coffee, sit for a little bit, and then get on with my workday. Even that's been disrupted. So what I would like to do is to really just talk about how we can recreate routine, how we can recreate intentionality in this time that is very uncertain. So the first way is to practice mindfulness and to stay active. So what is mindfulness? It is not meditation specifically, although mindfulness is a form of, or meditation is a form of mindfulness. Mindfulness is really the ability to kind of stop and check in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? Where are my thoughts moving right now? What are my behaviors in this particular time? Am I behaving frantically because I feel anxious, because things are so uncertain? Am I feeling a little bit of cabin fever? Am I feeling sadness or hopelessness? Am I feeling disconnected? And what thoughts are coming up for me and what am I doing? So that's mindfulness. It's really the check-in with the thought process and the mind and even an observation of our behavior. And we can stay active. So in the space that we feel some anxiety or some depression or sadness or hopelessness, what can we do? Right. So active looks different in the current health crisis. We can't go to the gym. We can run it off, but active really is expansive. It can be reading that book or starting that book that we've had sitting on our shelf for a number of months. It can be some small exercise regime. It can be checking in with people that we haven't talked to for a while, connecting. It can be sitting on the floor reading a puzzle. It can be all of these things, but what we don't want to happen is that there is a stagnation in our body response. And guess what? When we are anxious and when we're not practicing mindfulness and when we're not staying active, we tend to feel more stressed. And stress has been known to be linked to a suppressed immune system. What's number 2? Number 2 is going to be a difficult one for a lot of us. It is to reduce our time on social media and specifically to reduce our time looking at the news. Now, during this current health crisis, I know that we're all wanting to stay as informed as possible. And the reality is that creates a little bit more stress for us, that creates a little more anxiety, that deepens our sense of uncertainty and powerlessness. And so while, yes, we do need information and we do want to understand what's going on in our local community and in the greater community, we want to not stay anchored to the news. And the same thing with social media. Now, while this video will go on social media, and I hope it's helpful, we don't want to spend hours and hours just perusing through social media, because what will happen is that we will begin to feel a fear of missing out, and that will exacerbate our stress. And then we're back to point number 1, to be mindful, right, and to stay active in ways that are not just thumbing through Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever your social media choice is, and that is not anchoring ourselves to the news minute by minute. What's number three? Number three is probably the most important, especially as we spend more time at home. We need rest. And because our daily activities have shifted, we may not be as active. We may not be as tired during the day. We may tend to stay up later or watch more TV or to kind of zone out in front of video games for, late hours. But we really need to make sure that we create an intention of getting good rest, because rest is also a part of the body and mind's healing resources. And so when we can get good rest, we are essentially taking care of ourselves. We are being mindful of what is going on in our bodies. We're not forcing ourselves to stay awake. We're not living in, experiencing kind of this 24/7 anxiety. And I want to be careful about how I say that, because this is a very anxiety-driven time, and that is okay, right? That is completely valid. We are experiencing something that we have not experienced before. But in these three ways, which are really about creating routine, so practicing mindfulness and staying active, reducing our social media intake and our news media intake, and getting good rest, we can start to build a healthy routine for managing our anxiety, our symptoms of depression, our sadness, our disconnectedness in ways that will be helpful as we continue to figure out what's happening.